In the first two parts of this series, I showed you how Russia is on a long march to war and why it could be nuclear. Now, however, Trump and Putin have an opportunity to change course. They have a chance to halt the downward spiral in U.S. Russian relations, to avert a massive arms race, to save trillions of dollars in military budgets over the next decade, and most important, to reverse the frightening prospect of war. I don't say this lightly. It's a scenario that is truly possible. And we have sources close to Russia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Moscow that confirm it. They tell us that decision makers in the Kremlin are, currently at least, quite open-minded. They report that Russia's leaders were as surprised as anyone by Trump's victory, and they have not yet formulated any particular strategy. They're waiting for Trump to make the first move. This is a dramatic change. Before the U.S. election, most opinion leaders in Russia expressed virtually no hope of restoring relations with the United States. They thought a war was inevitable. Now, hope is widespread, strong, and for the most part appears to be genuine. Trouble is, Mr. Trump faces a series of hurdles from day one. Hurdle number one is the U.S. media. Both the liberal and conservative press seem to be lined up in lockstep against the deal with Putin. Hurdle number two is establishment Republicans and Democrats united in their opposition to a Trump-Putin deal. U.S. Senator John McCain, for example, who chairs the Armed Services Committee, says, "We should place as much faith in Putin's statements as any other made by a former KGB agent who has plunged his country into tyranny, murdered his political opponents, invaded his neighbors, threatened America's allies, and attempted to undermine America's elections." U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, also on the Armed Services Committee, says, "They're a bad actor in the world. They need to be reined in." And President Obama has warned against appeasing Putin with realpolitik. In other words, short-sighted deals that overlook America's core values. Hurdle number three is the Pentagon, also dead set against a reset with Russia. 8 years ago, America's generals witnessed the scene when Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, symbolically hit the reset button with Russia's foreign minister. Then they watched in dismay as the reset seemed to pave the way for Russia's annexation of Crimea, its invasions of eastern Ukraine, and its bombing campaigns in Syria. They feel that the only thing a deal will accomplish is to give Putin more latitude to pursue his mission of making Russia great again. Of course, none of these arguments are baseless, but there's one fundamental point they're missing. The West's economic sanctions against Russia have done nothing to stop Russia's military buildup and incursions. Quite the contrary, the sanctions have served as rocket fuel for Putin's anti-West propaganda machine. Look, I've been to Russia personally several times in recent years, not only to Moscow, but also cities and rural areas which are rarely visited by foreigners. And I can tell you firsthand, average Russian citizens are hurting badly in their pocketbook, and they blame it all on the United States. So what kind of deal could Trump and Putin make? Here are some of the key elements. First, Trump offers up the possibility that the West might consider peeling off economic sanctions in stages. Putin reciprocates with offers also in stages to reduce Russia's intervention in Ukraine, make no further advances in Eastern Europe, reverse the arms buildup in Kaliningrad, and cooperate in Syria by truly avoiding further attacks on U.S.-supported rebel groups. That then opens the door to restoring nuclear agreements, or at least preventing the collapse of arms limitation treaties. Now, here are my recommendations. First and foremost, give Trump a chance. Give him the space he needs to help avert what could be the single most dangerous threat to the world economy and to the world. Second, don't count on it. As an investor, you can't bet on hopes. You need to base your portfolio choices on reasonable expectations. And the reality is, there are real hurdles that Trump needs to overcome. Third, regardless of any new negotiations between the U.S. and Russia, it's still very likely that the United States will continue to step up its investment in leading-edge military technology and big-ticket weaponry. So defense stocks are bound to be among the strongest in the stock market. Fourth, all of this is bound to shake confidence in the U.S. bond market. You can expect massive government spending on defense, the fear of war and inflation. All of these forces can drive bond prices down and interest rates up. Fifth, gold is likely to benefit. We've already seen many episodes of global uncertainty driving funds into the yellow metal. Now, prepare for many more such episodes. Last and most important, bear in mind that a conflict between the United States and Russia is not going to happen out of the blue. A lot still has to take place before we reach that point. But long before then, you must safeguard not only your financial safety, but also your physical security. For more instructions, stay tuned to us right here at moneyandmarkets.com.